Greetings, Dapplings, and welcome to the first episode of a brand new Captain of Industry series. Now, for those of you who do not frequent the community page of the channel, the news of the series might come as a bit of a surprise, so for convenience, here's the too long didn't read version of the community post. Sadly, the early access build of the game is not save compatible with the beta game, and that could just be the entirety of the TLDR, but there are a lot of reasons why that's the case, for those of you who are wondering. Chief amongst them is just the sheer weight of new content in the game, as well as like new components and tweaks to existing components. It would break any factory where that was just applied over the top of an already complex system in place. Aside from that, rebalancing to the early parts of the game mean that any existing save would kind of have skipped over a lot of the cool new challenges that exist in the very early parts. So to keep things relevant and to allow those of you who've already picked up a copy to play alongside the series, we're just going to jump into a new series with the Early Access Edition, or the Supporter Edition, as the case may be here. This is basically just some additional cosmetic bells and whistles and a new map. I've given the game a couple of days to have the worst of the early access bugs ironed out, and as a result, we're likely going to enjoy an even smoother sail than I've been having with the first few hours of the colony I've streamed over on Twitch. The devs have been super hard at work, not just fixing bugs, but also adding extra polish to features that the community have highlighted. There's some days where there's more than one patch goes up in the day. But before we jump into the new colony, if by the end of this video you're hungry for more and you don't like the idea of having to wait until the next episode goes up, you can hop over to my second channel where there is already several hours of VODs from the aforementioned stream. And if you're around later today, maybe you can even join me live for a continuation of that save. So keep your eyes on the usual places for notifications that I'm going live. But with all that said and done, let's just jump into the game. And of course, the first choice is where we're going to start. Now, you'll notice a couple of new islands. You'll notice one in particular, the aforementioned Supporter Island, the Crater. Now, we're not going to be picking this one in the interest of some variety, as this is the map that I am currently playing through in my stream game. But I'm going to answer a very important question that I'm sure lots of people have immediately upon seeing this. Yes, you can break the bank here, and yes, that will flood the crater completely. That is probably a game over scenario, however, because I'm not aware of any way you're going to be able to unflood it unless there's some mechanism by which you can just generate almost infinite amounts of landfill and just fill it back in and then dig it all back out. I don't know. I don't think it really models water pumping, but just to get that question out of the way, because I know we're going to be asked it. But if you are interested in watching this playthrough, then again, the VODs are on my second channel. But I have decided for this one over on YouTube, we're going to be playing through the Golden Peak. Has a tall peak in the middle made of gold ore. This map is slightly tricky due to its tall mountain in the center, formed by many platforms on different heights that need to be connected via ramps to get access. Expanding the buildable land by mining the mountain and dumping rocks into the ocean is a vital strategy here. So that's the one we're going to be playing on. Here is the list of all of the materials there. Interestingly, less trees on this one than there is on You Shall Not Pass, though I suspect most of those trees were up the top. Furthermore, we're going to be playing on we'll play on Captain difficulty. I feel that Admiral difficulty is more of a challenge mode, and I'm interested more in showing off a lot of the new content rather than showing off the probably grindy nature of trying to survive in a very difficult version of the game. But that is very tempting, I must say. Now, Game C, let's hit random a couple of times. There we go. Or, in fact, we could just type Dapperdell, I guess. There we are. Game C, Dapperdell, if you would like to play along. But with that, let's jump into the game. Okay, here we are. Welcome, Captain. Captain, we've just docked. Our ship and the local shipyard will both need some major repairs. The abandoned communication station near the dock could be reconstructed, used to smelt iron into a blast furnace so that we can build more vehicles and construction parts. It is essential to build a research lab as soon as possible so we can figure out more blueprints for important things such as farms or a beacon. You can build multiple labs to speed up research. A friendly village you can trade with is nearby. Check the world map. Trading can be a lifesaver if you run into shortages of critical products. So you should research and build a trading dock as soon as possible. And with that, let's drop a pause here. Okay, so this is actually going to be a fairly tight area to build initially. As mentioned in the info on the map, we do have multiple layers of platforms that we're going to have to find some way to bridge, or rather to ramp up to. But let's have a proper look at the available resources at a starting area. We've got a huge area of oil. That's quite possibly one of the more one of the larger oil fields that we've had in any of the series to date. Got a big area of coal there, some limestone, lots of iron, some sand, and copper over here. One other thing you're going to notice from the beta build to the early access build, yes, the lines. Proper topographical information. Very, very useful for us. We've got a massive water table spot there, and one just over there. And this hill of coal, my lord. Okay, and of course, you know, the gigantic, frankly ridiculous mountain. That is suitable for a Bond villain. A mountain of gold like that? My goodness. Right, well, that's the lay of the land. Now, one thing I'm going to cover straight away, you're going to see a lot of things like this. Electronics, vehicle parts, mechanical parts. The list of things you have to make something has gotten much deeper, much richer. There is a far more complex supply chain now, and that is going to be absolutely glorious. Right, we want this to start recycling. The first thing that we're going to need to do by far and away is obviously smelt some iron. We may as well get that one on the go right now. So let's pop this one just around there. One of the things I love about the topography map, even though this is glorious, you know, just actually seeing the lines for the sake of being able to visualize the depth of something, it's brilliant. I mean, that's kind of why it's there. But the grid. Oh, the grid is so amazing. Also so frustrating, unfortunately. I'm going to be honest, if you're the type of person who suffers a little bit with having to have things symmetrical, the grid is going to both be a blessing and a curse. It'll be a blessing to be able to make things symmetrical, but it's going to be a curse when you realize how many things just can't be symmetrical, and you weren't aware of this before because the lack of a grid hid it from you. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a rough one. Hopefully you can make do though. All right, we could just hook this straight up. I'm kind of tempted to, actually. Yeah, why not? Oh no, actually we won't be able to. Sadly, the exhaust pipe wouldn't be able to be positioned there. That's a shame, because that would have been perfect. Oh well. We'll pop it down here then, I guess. Because the exhaust now is a single tower with a single input. Honestly, I like the new design. The old design was a little bit more functional in that you could have multiple things piped into it, but I actually kind of like the new design, if I'm honest. I prefer it over the old one. There we go. It fits into a much tighter space now, which I like. Right, I think that's pretty much everything we're going to need. So how about we get our trucks to work? Now let's have a quick take some stock of our components. We've got a bunch of copper down here. We've got some construction parts, vehicle parts, mechanical parts, some cement, rubber, diesel, and that will have to get us through the early game, and it's going to be a bit of a tight fit if we don't play our cards right. Let's get some area of trees set to be chopped. I'm going to have... how many do I want assigned? Oh no, that's right. I was going to say, how many trucks do I want assigned? But you don't do that anymore. You start with a tree harvester, but I am going to have to assign a truck to the tree harvester. Waste and dumping. Okay. Waste and dumping. Your population generates waste that needs to be collected to maintain healthy conditions in your settlement. You can attach a waste collection to your settlement to collect its waste. To get rid of the waste, you can designate a dumping area with the Z key and let your trucks dump the waste onto the terrain. Later on, you can research more ways and how to deal with the waste, such as burning it or indeed recycling it. Note that the amount of general waste your population produces depends on the amount of supply they get and whether they recycle. However, you can never get rid of general waste entirely. You can never run a 100% clean colony. They will always generate something that you have to dump or burn. And then just the general info on dumping. Some materials can be dumped directly onto the train, as you have just discovered. However, sometimes you might want to prevent your trucks from dumping waste all over the island. And for that, you've got the global dumping filter. Now, that one is a new one for us. It allows us to give a global rule on what can be dumped, which can be overridden then by mine control towers. Slag. Dumping slag is important, as typically your smelting industry will produce way more slag than you can use in concrete production. So slag dumping is enabled by default and has no pollution effect. Which isn't exactly true now, is it, game? Though I do appreciate the small buy that you've given us without having to, make our colonists suffer from slag pollution. But still, but for better efficiency, it is recommended to run slag from furnaces into storage via conveyor belts and then dump it from there. Indeed, things that we're already aware of. But we do need to get a waste collection area up and running. We may as well pop it right by there. Now, where are we going to be dumping? And in fact, if we have a look over here, you can see all of that. You can have rock, slag, crushed slag, waste, etc., etc. Can we even crush rock? We can. We can tell them that they're globally allowed to dump gravel. Iron smelting is already up and running. This is going to be more or less exactly the same as before, so we're not going to have to read over that one. But the simple TLDR is you take metal scrap or indeed iron ore, you run it through a blast furnace. You have to provide coal, which is why we've got the coal maker here to turn the wood into charcoal, and then this will produce slag. It'll also produce exhaust, which is why we've got that there, and then it will be dumped out into the metal casters, which will then produce the actual metal for us. Now, I need to set up a area for us to dump. Let's see. Well, one thing we could do is we could finish off this square by doing something like this. Just bring that all the way out down here and simply have that one all squared off there. That'll give us a little place for us to dump both the slag and indeed the plastic. Now, do we really want to dump plastic into the ocean? No, I don't. As much as slag is quite polluting, in game it's at least not. I actually don't know if slag itself if general waste is considered a pollutant, but for our sake, look, okay, the world has gone through a cataclysm. I don't know what happened to the world, but the world is gone. It's more like water world now. I'm going to blame it on microplastics, and so I'm not going to contribute to the problem. We're going to try and build a better society here, and if that means we're going to have to wait and build like towers of plastic on land until we can do something more green with it, then that's just the way it's going to be. But on that note, we are going to need somewhere that we can get rid of it. So do we actually have anywhere to put it? No, not yet. So that is going to be a very, very high priority, because right now it's just going to be building up. That will not be very nice for our colonists. We may end up having to dump it, realistically speaking, but hopefully we can get all of this done. Now, I've got a bit of Unity, and since we are actually generating Unity, I'm just going to quick build that. You'll notice now that we have a passive growth to our population. That is something that's very, very interesting. The edicts now will more be used to prevent population growth rather than encourage it, though I believe there are still edicts to encourage population growth as well. Now, as per the game's suggestion, I think probably the first thing we're going to want to go for is the trading dock. That being said, well, we're going to need the construction of materials as well. That's going to be a very important one in order to get the maintenance supplies. Pretty much everything early on is pretty important for us, but I would very, very much like to get to unit storage and trading dock. Unit storage is going to have to be the way that we deal with the waste going forward, though actually that's going to need to be loose storage, because plastic waste is loose, so that won't directly help us, but we'll grab the trading dock first so that we can start trading for materials. Then we'll go through grab power and maintenance. That'll be the route that we go for now. Hopefully it won't take us too long to get there. Now, with that said, how is our population? We're actually fine for population right now. We're not going to have to worry about that one for a good long while. I will designate all of the trees down here to be chopped, at least down on this side. But there we go. And now we just need to wait for everything else to be ready. And of course to click on the tutorial to get them out of the way. Again, the research hasn't really changed at all. I may even drop down a second research lab, actually, considering we've got a lot of workers and more than enough Unity. So yeah, we'll pop that one in. But I shall bring you back when we've made some progress. So see you very soon. Okay, basic farming is complete. So let's go ahead and start laying these down. We're already starting to work on trading dock. Right, so farms, you want to get going pretty much as soon as you have them, simply because early on, your initial food supplies, they're not going to last very long. Oh, the grids are amazing. I can now see exactly how much we can fit into this space. That is marvelous. We would probably be able to fit a third as well, or at least with a tiny little bit of resurfacing there. We're probably going to fill that up with slag and indeed plastics if we're forced to. And then we would need to resurface it with dirt, but that's not actually too much of a problem. Though that being said, something just occurred to me. Why am I filling this in? Well, okay, so there's a couple of reasons why still filling stuff in on the ocean is a good idea, because there's a very, very large place to fill stuff up. You're not easily going to run out of place whilst trying to create new land. And what I mean by run out of space is that once you don't have a place designated to dump materials, especially slag, your entire industry is just going to grind to a halt. Right now, we don't have to worry about it because metal scrap doesn't produce slag when it's smelted. It's just iron. And so you're heating it up and reforming it. But once you're dealing with iron ore, part of that is going to be rock waste. That you have to deal with somewhere. And of course, we've got the plastic over here. But what we could do is make use of the fact that we have this right now and already start building up a ramp instead of worrying about taking care of the filling in the ocean. That way, once we're ready for this, we can fill that in with a bit of rock and then surface it with dirt, and then we can build a farm on it, and I think that would be much better. Now, what level are we on here? We're on level 6, so we just need to rise 4 levels, and we know that one of these is exactly 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and at that point we are now level. Oh, the grids, so great. Let's go ahead and fill this out. Let's make a ramp about 3 wide. I think that should be good. There we go, and that'll be lovely. Absolutely perfect. Now, there are a couple of other buildings that you're eventually going to be able to build. Retaining walls is one of them. This is something I'm really, really looking forward to being able to play with because obviously retaining walls, they give us a lot of new options in keeping things tidy. But a couple of things that perhaps even a bit outside the box. We'll see what we can do with that. But there's more things that you can do than just have them there. And rather prevent landslides and spilling of loose resources. Now, we've got some storages, and I would like to get some storage down. One of them I would very much like over here, simply to store up some wood. Perhaps I should place it over here, though, relatively close to where we're using it. One there, and one over here for iron. Let's just get those set up. We're not going to position these in any way to allow them to be have conveyor belts into them, because I'm probably going to move this entire industry once that time comes. Right now, I just want somewhere to put the stuff. So let's get both of these set up. Now, these are costing building materials, so don't get too crazy with this. In terms of ways that I have soft-locked myself in this game, it is overbuilding storages, probably number 1 way of soft-locking myself in the early game. I've already built 2 research labs and I've built 2 storages. Now, the one for wood I kind of need because we're not storing wood anyway, so it's literally preventing us from building any kind of stockpile of wood. Iron was already being stored in these facilities, but I would kind of like those to be moved a little bit faster, because if we don't do that, then we don't take the materials out of here. And I kind of want to get everything out of here that we can as fast as we can. So I'm going to build another 2. And probably at that point, we're going to start having to really think about what I'm doing next. If I'm going to build another storage, I'm really going to have to decide whether that's something we can afford with our very limited construction parts. We're already down to 69. One of these costs 30. So, with that all said and done, we've got the trading dock, we've got the construction, we're building up to the ability to make our own construction parts, so I'm not too terribly worried about it right now, but it is definitely something you need to bear in mind. Now, one of the other things that I'm really happy with is the overlays letting you know where ships are going to be moving. We can see here, for example, that no ship will approach this dock from the left. But, oh, well, it will now. Actually, if we can build this, are we able to? We can. Huh, okay, well, fair enough. I'll go ahead and do that. Though we may end up blocking the, well, let's just call this north. We may block the eastern access or exit point for the ship. Our main dock doesn't allow approach from the west, does allow approach from the north, and of course sailing away to the north as well. But we are slowly getting rid of all of these materials, getting them out of this area. There we go. Look at that. We're starting to move all of this stuff away, and I'm very, very, very happy with that. Now, it's going to take a little while to get this all built. We can't quick deliver, although we've got the unities, because it takes a long time for this to gather anything. So actually, I'm going to give it an extra... I think we're giving it an extra truck, maybe even 2 extra trucks right now. At the moment, we're stable. You can have a look at analytics, trucks cargo history. This is super useful now, by the way. Used to be that this would just show you the seconds that the thing that has been waiting the longest in your logistics chain. Usually it ended up being slag in a storage somewhere, and you'd see numbers in the thousands, and it would be very, very intimidating, very urgent. Now it just has a word, like, oh, the trucks are very busy, or the trucks are stable, so on and so forth. But you can actually go in here now and have a proper look at things, which is actually quite nice. You've got lots more information to hand. Now, the trading dock will take a little bit to be built, but I wasn't too worried about that one because it doesn't require any construction parts to be made. But something that does require construction parts to be made, and 25 at that, is the assembly. Now, if we have a look here, the recipes are iron, wood, and concrete slabs makes construction parts. That's the most important one. You want to get construction parts on the go. You can also use iron to make the mechanical parts. We're going to need those for the maintenance construction. Also, electronics is made with copper and rubber. That's kind of a worrying thing because copper and rubber are a little ways away research-wise, so you do have to start planning very early on to be efficient with your builds. Don't overbuild is my warning there. That being said, we've easily got enough to make 2 of these, and I want both of them making construction parts. Now, are we going to be able to produce that much? In 60 seconds, we'll easily be able to produce 6 wood. We'll easily be able to produce 6 concrete, or rather, from this, we'll be able to get 6 concrete. In terms of metal, in 60 seconds, we'll be producing 12 iron plates. So both of these will be able to run pretty much flat out. So I'm happy with that. Excavating there, or rather our tree harvester having to go off to get a little bit of fuel. Getting this set up quickly so that we've got automated fuel delivery will be a big thing for us. We're very, very near to the completion of our trade depot over here, which is marvelous, and the farms are indeed ready. What have we got there? We've got an entire load of potatoes being delivered. Fantastic. Now, I hadn't clicked on this before because this is very different from the original. Alright, well, I say the original, the beta and the alpha. We've now got food groups. You've got carbs, protein, vitamins, and treats, because treats... Cake is a food group, okay? Can we just all sit down and agree on one thing? The whole of humanity, this one time, we can just agree that treats is a food group. Doritos, I'm not so sure about, but cakes is definitely a food group. We can give people different amounts of food, and just looking at all of this. Now, for those of you who've been with the channel since I covered it alpha, you're used to seeing things in the game that aren't just in the game yet. Kind of placeholders for what's going to be there. Anyone remember the wormhole tech? Yeah, that isn't here anymore. But what we've got instead is a promise. If you can see something on the tech tree, it is researchable, it is buildable. There are no longer coming soon research buttons that are just a placeholder. All the wormhole tech, all of the stuff beyond rocketry, that's still planned to be brought in. It's just, it's not in the game yet, so they've removed it from being seen. And honestly, I agree with this. I agree with this quite strongly. Those who are interested in where the game's going can always look at the roadmap to get all of that information. But if you're just looking at the screen, you see a bajillion research options. It's very exciting, only to get like like 3/4 of the way or halfway there to realize that you can't actually progress any further because something just in a little bit, if you click on the text, says coming soon, so you can't actually research it and everything behind it is thus gated. That was a little bit disappointing. So I think this is a really, really good change. But whilst we have less on the research screen, I say less, look how much we've got in this tech tree. It is absolutely bonkers. And there's more here than there was in beta by far. And that is even putting aside the things that were there but coming soon. There's actually just more stuff even earlier on in the tech tree, such as fruit and the likes. There is so much here to play with. And one of them is all of this. We can make all of this. We've got animal husbandry. We can get eggs and sausages. Obviously, you don't just grow those on trees, so it supposes that we're going to be getting sausages from, the natural evolution of animals into food. They may not go into an Oni-style evolution chamber, but we will be farming them or ranching them, I guess. We're going to make it bread. And the way that food works now is the more food groups you give your people, the bigger the effect on their health, and as a consequence, how quickly the population is growing, unity production, that sort of thing. So ideally, you want to give them at least one in all of them, possibly all of them, if you can actually get there. So we've got our trading dock set up, so let's head out onto the world map and see the village. You'll notice there are a couple of other things in here. Even from where I was streaming it, just after release, we've now got a way to get diesel. This was added to, again, add a little bit of extra polish, make it a little bit harder to soft lock yourself, just give new players a much smoother sail. You can now trade coal for diesel if you happen to have coal. You don't get as much, you can't like flip-flop between them. You get 20 diesel back for 40 coal there, whereas you need to spend 30 diesel to get 40 coal. And obviously you have to pay a unity cost to do the trade at all. But there are ways now of getting vital resources that is much, much harder now to soft lock yourself, which I am very, very happy for. I think that's going to make the game much more approachable. But currently we're not doing any research, so speaking about research, let's go ahead and have a look at what we can do next. Next up, I would like the beacon. The beacon is going to allow us to bring in new settlers, so a strong light helps other refugees find your island and join you. This can help you get more workers and some extra starting loot. Agreed. Further to that, we're going to want vehicles and mining. We want to be able to build our own excavators, pickup trucks, tree harvesters, and the all-important mind control tower. Yuri wills it. Further to that, we're going to want concrete production immediately after we've got that up and running. And at that point, we're largely going to be self-sufficient, sort of. Realistically, we need copper, and we need all the way up to rubber. At that point, we will actually be fine. Once you've gotten once you've gone up to copper refinement and synthetic rubber, you can breathe a sigh of relief. It's almost impossible to soft lock yourself at that point. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add these in. I would like to get all the way up to rubber there and copper refinement as well. So that's going to give us quite a lot of research to go through because, look, if you've been with the channel for a while, you'll know that sometimes I'll get distracted by building stuff and I won't notice that we're out of research. So the more I queue up, the less time is wasted while I'm nattering on about how excited I am about food groups. Okay, so power and maintenance, trading dock, we can just skip that one. Construction, we can skip that one. Assembly, this is a little bit of information about the assembly that we've already built. We can now start producing construction parts to build more machines and buildings, but don't forget to scale up our iron production to cope with the demand. Some machines and vehicles require regular maintenance. We should research and build a maintenance depot as soon as possible. In fact, we're already there. The tools here just goes over the fact that we can cut and paste, and other tools down here, the Unity tool especially is one that I particularly like. And power and maintenance is complete, so we can now build the maintenance depot, and that is probably the next most important thing for us to do. If we have a look, maintenance depot is going to require 40 construction parts, it requires mechanical parts, and it requires electronic parts to produce maintenance. Now this is a lot, a much larger requirement than used to be. Currently, when you start the game, It's very generous in that it gives all of your vehicles like 250 or maybe even 300% maintenance. Normally, it'll never again go above 100%, but this is just a buffer to say, look, these vehicles are in tip-top mint condition. They have been expertly maintained. From here on out, though, as they take wear and tear, it's going to be much more hand-to-mouth. You need to get this maintenance facility up relatively early. So let's go ahead and plan for that. Let's pop this down here, let's say. Later on, we're going to want to make this much more automated and using conveyor belts and such, but for the time being, we're not going to have those to hand. Or actually, maybe, in fact, yeah, let's grab that. Ah, I love the cut tool so much. There we go. Let's pop that one over there. On that note, can my trucks get through the 2 wide gaps? No, they can't. Okay, duly noted. I will make them 3 wide in the future, or not wide at all. Though it's got to be said, it does look a little bit nice having that little gap there. Now, this is going to require mechanical parts, and of course, mechanical parts are made in an assembly from iron plates. So let's set this up. We can possibly put this assembly just down here, and again, like I said, let's give the trucks enough room to move between them. So we're gonna need electronic parts as well. So let's plan for that. So let's plop those down. We want the mechanical parts here. We want the electronic parts there. There we go. And this is gonna need some power. So let's go ahead and set up our very first power generating diesel generator. Where are we going to set this up? I quite like having the early diesel generators quite nearby the dock, because it gives me the opportunity then of setting up a liquid storage nearby, which will allow me to feed both the dock and keep fuel in the dock, as well as feed the diesel generator, because typically these are fairly high priorities. The diesel generator is going to produce air pollution by burning the diesel, obviously. Later on, you're going to have other options like steam, and indeed later on nuclear. I imagine there's a small wince of regret from my regular viewers because we didn't get to nuclear in the beta series before the early access came out, and we had to wrap things up and jump into a new thing. But with any luck, we will get there relatively quickly in this series. Now, we can see over here that things are, well, you know, they're not great. They could certainly be a bit better, but we will see how they go. Now, how are we doing over here with the 3 trucks? Are they okay? Yeah, we're generally still stable, so I'm relatively happy with that. How much time have we got left on this? Not enough, honestly. We need that to be a lot faster. But now that we are producing our own construction parts, I might actually want to have those stored, as it will, well, you know what? No, we're not going to store them just yet. Right now, we're going to be building so many things so frequently, I don't think there is much of a reason to do that. We're just going to pull straight out of there. Actually, that needs to be the other way around. Let me rotate that. Or does it? No, it doesn't, actually. I've got all of these pointing the wrong way. But again, because I'm not going to be using any conveyor belts around here, that doesn't really matter. This one is going to be for the copper, which we will need over there. Let's go ahead and bring that down. And also rubber as well. Now that I'm actually producing the construction parts, I'm not as worried about building the storages. That was more of a concern when we didn't yet have a means to supply those, though we really badly need to get to loose storage, so I can start popping this into a storage bin. Alternatively, again, I could make some sort of ramp out of it, and I guess that would be okay. A plastic ramp over here actually wouldn't be a bad thing. Let's go ahead and add plastic back on. We'll make a ramp out of plastic. I'm sure the trucks are going to feel super safe driving up and down a ramp that is just loose plastic bits. And no sooner have I told them that they're allowed to bring the plastics over, are they emptying out the waste dump. I don't know if I should feel happy about this or concerned at how eager they are to dump plastic, but at least it's not in the ocean. It's all going to be in a ramp that I can later on dig down and then send off to the recycling center. Again, you're never going to completely get rid of all waste. We probably can burn the plastic, so that's, you know, again, another pollutant, but at least we're not throwing it in the oceans and, you know, getting turtles stuck in it. We'll take the wins that we can get. Now, it's going to be a little while before we've got the construction materials to finish all of these off, but it will get there in time. So we're just going to have to pass a little bit of time and let the rest of the colony continue to advance. Oh, actually, on that note, we've got the beacon. Fantastic. And we are now working on vehicles and mining. So let's have a look at the beacon and quickly throw that together. This is going to require 30 construction materials and 10 copper. And I think the beacon should sit down here by the dogs. Maybe later on we will build a proper area for the beacon. Some sort of tall, majestic island, like make it a proper lighthouse, maybe. No, I'm not going to make a lighthouse island out of landfill. I refuse. But we may make it out of rock or gravel in the future. But this one is actually somewhat of a priority for me, so I'm going to put this as a higher priority than my unit storage, though that one is so close. I'm going to just go ahead and quick build it so that we can get the copper out of here. But with that, I'm going to have to pass a little bit of time and allow some more research to be done and allow this ramp to continue being built, and I will bring you back when we're ready to progress. Alright, welcome back. It is currently the 15th of November, year 3. And we've got some new refugees. We've also unlocked the tutorial for mining and dumping, and the beacon is of course ready, hence where we've gotten the refugees from. So let's check the refugees first. We've got 16 new souls, 34 copper plates, 25 rubber, 10 iron scrap, which will be useful, and 36 diesel. Hooray indeed. Now, as for the mining and dumping, we've more or less already covered this, but there are some little bits of additional information. If you're new to the game, I strongly recommend you thoroughly read all of the tutorial messages. There is a lot of information here, very easily missed little tidbits as well. In fact, every now and then I discover that they've added a little bit more to the tutorial as they fleshed out the UI, and I will myself find some gems of knowledge in there. But the beacon is ready, and now that we've got the diesel generator up and running, we're going to continually get some more people. It'll let us know roughly how many people they're expecting and how far in the future it goes. As you get more people, or basically each time the beacon attracts someone, it'll take longer to attract the next person. So because we're paying for the power, the return on investment has greatly diminishing returns over time, so it is definitely worth bearing that in mind. But in the early game, you've got a good many refugees worth out of that early on before you have to start worrying about the diminishing returns. Now, we've got the vehicle plant and indeed the mine control tower, so it is time for us to set that up. Let's get a vehicle depot. It doesn't really matter too much where we place this, so I'm going to pop it over here. The only thing that I would suggest is something you keep in mind is that you are going to want a good bit of clearance, and wherever you build this, that is where excavators are going to come from. And excavators, unlike trucks, although we don't have any conveyor belts or pipes yet, trucks can go under conveyor belts and pipes as long as they're built high enough up. They'll have little scaffolding legs, but there'll be plenty of room for trucks to go underneath. Excavators can never do that, no matter how it looks. The small excavators can sometimes appear as if they should be able to fit under them, but they can never go underneath. So you have to build over them. For that, we will have research projects that'll give us bridges. But do remember that wherever you build this, there's going to have to be a way for excavators to get wherever they've got to go. Now, the first things that we're going to want are iron and copper. Also, limestone as well for the production of concrete, and coal, of course, to run our furnaces. So we're going to want a fair number of these. Initially, I would say the first one you're going to want is for coal, because getting away from burning wood as your fuel source for your blast furnaces is a very, very big improvement. You're going to want a vehicle, at least one with each excavator you make, but generally speaking, I'm going to say you want However many excavators you put to a job, you're going to want at least one extra truck than that tending to those excavators. But concrete production is ready to go. So towards the end of getting concrete up and running, we're going to want another excavator and another truck besides. Now, we've got plenty of Unity, so let's go ahead and summon that over. And let's see, this one is then going to need... Ooh, I'm thinking we might actually want... I'm going to remove that one out. These only take 20 each, which is fine, but we will struggle a little bit with that. We've got 80 vehicle parts right now. Now, if we have a look over here, we will see that vehicle parts can be made of iron, mechanical parts, and electronic parts, and we are going to need them. So, time for us to build another one of these. Let's go ahead and pop you down about here is fine. There we go. You're going to be set up to make mechanical parts. Now, this is going to be a big drain on a lot of our resources, but it is going to be a necessary one. We're also going to want a storage facility to store, well, at least a couple of these things. Right now, we're not really worrying where they go, but we kind of need to start worrying about it. We've already got a spot for the electronic parts, so we don't need to worry about that, but we are going to need a storage for the vehicle parts and the mechanical parts, so let's set those up as well. So mechanical parts can go there and vehicle parts can go here, just so that we build up a stockpile, because if we are functioning hand to mouth, if we burn through all of the supply that we have, it is going to be a bloody long time before our one factory is going to be able to make us one more vehicle's worth of vehicle parts, which is going to be a real pain in the backside, let me tell you. Now, over here, we've got two things that we need to get access to. And for these, we're going to want the mine control tower. Mine, not mined. Only a few of them are mind control towers, and they're indistinguishable from the mine control towers, because Yuri is no fool. If they all looked obvious, then you'd know which ones to blow up. But no, they will be hidden in plain sight. Right, we are going to want to set this one up to edit this area. First and foremost, we want to gather this coal specifically. We are going to want one excavator and one truck for now, but realistically we're going to want two. Probably a lot sooner than later. We are going to go ahead and we're going to just dig into the very easily accessible coal right here. All of this is above ground coal. If we bring up the overlay that shows us, the way that you can read this, oh my lord, I'm building that right on top of the oil, aren't I? Oh, well, it's too late now. Well, I mean, it's not too late, but I can easily access that from over here. Actually, this is a good time to quickly go over a couple of things. So there are two types of resources that you can see. Ones that are represented by cylinders and ones that are represented by layers of squares. Now, the cylinders, as long as you can access any part of it, you have access to the entire reserve. This is basically the water table, the blue ones, and this is an underground spot of oil. If you build one pump over here, it will drain the entire reserve. You don't need to spread it out. But these represent the actual physical locations of these resources. The little grey caps mean that there's material above the resource that you're going to have to excavate before you can access it, but in the cases where there isn't anything on top, this just shows us that this is this depth of coal. Each one of these layers is 1 unit of depth, so this is very accessible coal, and it goes back a fair way. Over here we've got limestone, iron, gold, copper, so on and indeed so forth. A handy dandy little legend down on the side there that will tell you all you need to know. Now we can quickly deliver everything over there, and that will get this up and running, and at this point we can more or less stop the use of wood. So I'm going to pause this now. I'm going to assume that we might one day want it again, but realistically I would much rather be using coal rather than using any wood, because the wood has other uses, and burning it off, well, I mean, you know, we can use the coal for that. There isn't an alternative to the wood until much later on for the things that need wood. We've got a little bit more iron scrap, rubber, copper, very good, and again, exactly the same, that we are now pushing on towards the point where we will have no more living space for our people, and that is something that we really don't want to butt heads against. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plan down the construction of more living space. That will be a very, very important one. Now, have we built the next excavator? We have indeed. Marvelous. Well, then the next step then, I'm going to say we want to start transitioning over to gathering metal directly. So let's go ahead and build the mine control tower over here. Where exactly doesn't really matter, but we'll pop it there. The edit area, let's just go for this whole section here. We'll dig into that first, and then we'll clear up the other sides. For this, we are going to want one excavator and one truck again, and we will set this up down here to just dig into this mountain. Now, this one is going to get both rock and probably a bit of dirt along with the iron ore. Over here, we're mostly going to just be getting coal. Though that being said, I'm seeing a little bit of dirt here and there, I guess, these little grassy outcroppings there. So the trucks, and this is one of the big reasons why I say use more than one. We're actually going to drop this down now, though this isn't strictly necessary for us. And we're going to pop one extra one here and another one over there. Now, the reason why as I was saying, that I have multiple trucks is this way. If the excavator starts gathering coal and there's a truck around with a little bit of coal in the truck bed, it can put the coal in there. But if it grabs a bucket full of dirt, well, there'll be another truck that it can put dirt into, and that way it will generally be able to keep working. Now, I'm going to want to tell it to mine coal as a priority. When a product is selected, the excavator will prioritize mining designations containing the selected product. So, for example, well, over here it's not as clear, but over here there will be times when the excavator, in order to get to the iron, is going to have to go through some rock. But if there is an area with just exposed iron, it will prioritize going there first. So it will reduce the amount of time that my trucks are spending having to dump materials that they don't need. Obviously, they can dump all of that material over there, so that will all work out quite nicely. Right, concrete production is done. Basic diesel is there as well. We will be able to make our own diesel. We're a little ways off from needing to do that yet, but this is going to be an important one for us. Also, health and pollution. Your population has health. If health is positive, your population grows and provides you with extra unity. If health turns negative, your population starts to decline. Positive effects: you can increase your population health by providing them with a variety of food, water, and healthcare. Negative effects: your population health decreases if you emit pollution, air or water. Pollution on your island is global. This is an important note because certainly in the beta, I wasn't clear on this, and I would try to build polluting industries far away from my population centers, believing that would have some sort of impact, but apparently not. So moving smokestacks further away from your settlement won't help. It is a good idea to keep your eye on how much pollution you emit. When something emits pollution, it's displayed in the UI there. And there's also disease. Your population can suffer from diseases. There are some types of diseases that just come and go, and there's nothing you can do about it, like the flu or cold. Just make sure you provide healthcare once you can. But there are also diseases that can occur due to bad conditions in your settlement. For instance, lack of clean water. There are no diseases from pollution, as pollution gives a health penalty directly. So you're not going to cause them to develop a disease because there's so much smog in the air. Like, there's not going to be any kind of for example, a disease which attacks the lungs that's going to be more prevalent because you're pumping out so much smog. They are just going to have bad lungs, and it's just the way it is. And if you stop producing that pollution, then that negative effect will dissipate, which will be very, very important. Now, we need a little bit more, and what are we waiting on? We're just waiting on time. But I think, looking at the time, speaking of it, that's where we're going to have to wrap things up here. We're working towards the goal of synthetic rubber over here. Now, as I mentioned, once we've got copper and synthetic rubber, then for the early game, we are effectively self-sufficient. We will be able to make our own fuel out of the oil reserves that we have on the island. We'll be able to turn some of that into rubber. We will be able to make our own copper from the copper that we have available. Likewise, we'll be able to make our own concrete and iron and all the components that are made from it. Now, we are not quite there yet, and it's going to be a little while, perhaps the whole of the next episode, until we get there. But that is the goal. The first step is to reach a point where you are not reliant on any trades, and so far we haven't had to bring any in at all. We've got plenty of copper, we've got a decent amount of diesel. Rubber is not in the best place. We've got a lot of cement because we're not making our own concrete yet, and we kind of need to get on that ASAP because we only have 200 concrete slabs. Make that 188 before we're out. So in the next episode, we are going to need to get the limestone up and running now that we're actually mining mining ore over here. We are going to want to use that because that will produce slag, and that's going to be one of the ingredients in the concrete. But if I stay any longer, this episode's going to become an hour long if it isn't already. I really do hope you have enjoyed. And as always, do leave a like if you liked, and sub if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.